Today's guest was born in Singapore. She's an international clairvoyant psychic medium, empath, and spiritual therapist, mentor, and teacher. From a young age, she could connect to souls in the spirit realms. As a survivor of child sexual abuse, it was in her teens via a drug overdose that she had a near-death experience and was met by Jesus, Yeshua. Let's welcome today's guest, Carol. Welcome, Carol.
Hi, Adam. Hi, everybody.
Yes, it's very interesting times that we're going through. We just made a little bit of a slight conversation before we got on. I mean, people are feeling the heavy energies uh, and dealing with the state of external fear. Many people are embedded in the outer world as opposed to going inward and working on their
Inward,
own specific path. Many people
absolutely.
like yourself have had experiences that have forced your soul to almost experience the outer realms of this universe in order to gain a connection and bring that information back to us here on Earth. And
Yeah,
there are people that don't experience that. There are people who pass on and are not fortunate enough to be able to pass on the information that you yourself
mm,
had the opportunity through Jesus, Yeshua.
yeah,
So maybe
yeah,
you could just share a little bit with the audience, a little bit about your background and how you came to this place.
yeah. I think my background is quite important. My child sexual abuse is quite important because that's where I first saw angels. Um, I feel like I was taken during them experiences. It was from the age of about 15 years old. Um, for many years, I didn't realise that it was any different. I thought it was just normal. And I was being taken by angels into the universe and just feeling the unconditional love and the peace and the harmony there while these experiences were taking place. It wasn't until I got into my senior school, until I was about 11 or 12, that I realised that this wasn't happening to everybody and that I was very different. I found it difficult being around all the other children. I never learnt much at school because I always dreaded going home. There was always that I have to go home, I have to go home into that darkness. So it wasn't until my mum found out, and as soon as she found out, she reported him. He went to prison. He was convicted. And then my life just spiraled for a number of years. I took a lot of overdoses. I'd go to the GP with depression. Didn't really know what was wrong with me other than I didn't want to be here. I didn't feel like I belonged on this planet. I felt like I wanted to go home. I wanted to be, I'd experienced that unconditional love and that beautiful, just that energy, that vibration as a child. And I just wanted to be back there. So I would say on my last overdose, I met Yeshua, Jesus. It was firstly just this brilliant white light, but it's very hard to explain to you what the light was like because when you say brilliant white, it wasn't just that. It was like crystal clear, brilliant, comforting. The same light that I recognized from being a child when I was with my angels. And this figure walked towards me, never told me that he was Joshua. I just knew. I just knew that that's who it was. He told me that I was crying the whole time because the vibration, the energy was so pure. But he told me I had to come back. He said, "You have to go back, Carol." And I was pleading with him, "Please don't send me back. I don't want to go back there. I don't belong there. It's too hard." But he said, "You have to go back because you've got more to do." And I ended up back. I didn't take another overdose after that.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that experience straight away, though, Adam. I never understood that. It left me with anger because I felt like he'd thrown me to the lions. Do you understand
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yes.
I felt like I was being thrown back into the darkness. So, my family wasn't a religious family. I've never been religious. I've only been to church once, and that was to ask the priest what was happening to me because I was seeing lots of different stuff, buildings on fire. I was seeing a spirit walking around and coming and talking to me. So that's the only time I went into a church. So the belief in God I never had. And at that time, I dismissed myself from the whole God, Yeshua, all of that stuff, dismissed it. I was angry. How dare you send me back? I can't believe you're doing this to me. And I was like that for a very long time, until it became apparent that they wanted to use me as a vessel, as a channeler, to relay messages to other people from their loved ones and from the angels and spirit guides and guardian angels. So I did see Jesus again, but this was through a meditation, and I felt a comfort, and it brought me back to that. Yeah. And I recognized that actually what he'd told me then many years ago, he was right. I did have to come back because I helped so many people. Just passing messages, and it wasn't my job. I've only been doing this job for 10 years, as self-employment. Before that, I used to tell people everything in all my jobs. I'd be with people and I'd just say, oh, I've got somebody here for you. They just want to say, love the new car that you've just bought, or, congratulations on your granddaughter. Tell them who they were, their names. And that's been my experience ever since. I've grown, spiritually, through my own awareness, understanding that we have to be in our awareness, because if we're not, we're going to miss things. Yeah. And recognizing that we're in the third dimension is very powerful. Once you recognize that, then you understand that there's more. A lot. We can go into the fourth and the fifth. And this is the transition that's happening in the world right now.
Yeah, what's interesting is the fact, just to go back a little bit to the adolescent years, it's interesting. I was talking to somebody myself, and regarding how when a person is empathic and has the ability to see a little bit beyond what exists, it's difficult to go through the adolescent years knowing that people's authenticity is not really genuine, because people are trying to find themselves. And when you externalize what the people, how they're acting and what they're going through, and knowing a little bit more through one's intuition, you can see that people want to pull back like yourself. And I know I wanted to pull back because I felt it wasn't comfortable for me as a teenager. When you bring
absolutely.
When you bring up the subject of your personal near-death experience, many people have different experiences of what they see with a life review, different colors, different lights taken to different places. And as you said, it was difficult a little bit to assimilate probably back into your body and to the situation. Were you able to tell anybody in your family? Were you able to share this with somebody?
I didn't tell anybody for years. I didn't tell anybody for years. I think that the first person I told was possibly my daughter when she'd become older. And purely because, again, as an empath, what people are feeling, what people are thinking, and if you can trust and if you can't, and if they're going to be on your wavelength, or if they're not, if they think, I had a lot of people that blamed me for the abuse that I went through. My whole family blamed me, apart from one brother. So I was really ostracized from the family. Yeah. I went into a children's home, and that wasn't a very good experience either. There was an experience there. I don't even know if I should talk about that on here, but where the guy that was running the home with his wife, I accused him of trying to touch me, and social services were called in, and there was a big meeting. And, it ended with, at the end of the day, that, well, I'm going to think everybody wants to abuse me because I was a child that was abused. That's where it went to. So I was not believed. Wow. I was not believed in many, many ways. So, that experience. So coming back, I'd experienced a lot of pain just in them short years. I was kicked out of the children's home at 16. So by the time I was 17, 18, when I was taking my overdoses, I felt useless. I felt dirty. I felt like it was my fault. you know, I couldn't, I just didn't know who I was. So when I was sent back, it was like, I felt like I was being thrown back into the lion's cage.
Yeah.
That's how I felt, you know.
Yeah.
You know, my father was a very well-known man. Um, his family was quite a big family. And if, you know, as I got older, when I went into clubs or pubs and stuff, they would always ask, how, you know, how's your dad, Carol? How's your dad doing? And my response every single time, he's still a paedophile. And they would just be, oh, okay, and then walk off, scurry off, because, you know, that's what he was. But nobody, and so can you understand the experience I went through? It was like, you're the baddie, you're the baddie, you're the baddie. So anybody out there that's going through that experience or has been through that, just know that you're not.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't anything that you done, it wasn't anything I done, you know, and you're not the baddie. You know, you're the survivor.
Yeah.
You're the one that's got through this.
On that note, so many people experience trauma and uh,
They
following the
do.
patterns of loyalty that exist in families, and so many people
Oh,
have a hard time of challenging it. But there's always one person within the family that eventually comes and tries to break those family curses or those energies that
yeah,
exist. I know for
you're
myself,
absolutely correct.
I know for myself, I had that inkling, that feeling of investigating and turning everything upside down with the
Yeah,
backlash of abandonment, emotional abandonment as a teenager and as I got older.
yeah,
But I always knew that I would have
yeah.
the respect, and I think in the back of each person's mind, like yourself, you know that you know what's right and you know what's wrong, and you know that even if, in spite of the fact that you're by yourself and alone, you still have that courage to keep going, and so that's admirable. On that subject,
I think
again.
it makes us stronger. Yeah, go on.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that makes us stronger. You know, I don't fear anything. I'm not fearful at all. The only thing that I fear, which is very small now, is the dark. I don't like being out in the dark. I don't like being on my own in the dark. I mean, I'm okay now because
Right.
I live on my own, so I'm fine now. But for many, 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 many years, that was my biggest fear. But everything else, nothing frightens me. Literally nothing. You know, I became my own warrior
Yeah.
because I had to defend myself. Nobody looked after me. Nobody defended me. Nobody supported me. So it makes us stronger people, I believe.
Do you think? Do you think that people experience these types of traumas in order to develop certain aspects of themselves that they would never have developed if they have never gone through these experiences?
That's a really hard one, Adam, because I've questioned that a lot. You know, I mean, I believe that we've all got a soul contract, so we contract with our souls before we come here. You know, some people say we pick our parents, and for many years I would question that. You know, why would I pick or choose to go through what I've been through?
Right. Right.
Um, so I think that I don't think that my father, you know, made a contract to be a paedophile. I think that that was the earth. You know, he was in the army. Um, I think that maybe stuff happened to him. I don't know. Um, and I think he broke his contract with me to protect me as his daughter. That's what I think he done. So because he broke that contract, everything just went boom and off scale. That's my personal belief. I don't know what others believe. I don't believe that I, you know, contracted to go through what I went through, and I think that maybe, I don't know, maybe I would have learnt them lessons, but who knows?
Yeah. And, it's my feeling that from interviewing people who've had near-death experiences that people who have this experience, as if they're not on the right path, they're not following their true calling, and then spirit calls them back to
Oh,
assess
yeah,
to assess the situation, to bring them back and realign them. And what are your thoughts on that?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I absolutely do agree with that. I think, but when you're looking at my case, which is different, I think if you're looking at, just for an example, somebody that's lived in their ego, somebody that's trodden on people to get to the top, somebody that's treated people badly, people like that, then near-death experience, yes, definitely, to wake them up, like, what are you doing? You need to be doing this. And because people change, boom, just like that. I don't feel like I changed. I never changed. I was still Carol. I was still very quiet. I didn't like being around people. It was very difficult to trust. I didn't like lots of people, lots of crowds, because it's too much noise, too much energy going around. I think that when you go through trauma like I went through, not just as a child growing up and going through that, but from 15 going into the children's home, at 15 for a year, going through them traumas in there, and then continual traumas into my 20s, late 20s. I learnt my lessons the hard way. That's how I see that. I had to learn a lot of lessons very quickly, but I was very awake from a very young age. I knew angels existed. I knew that Yeshua existed. I believed that, when I was 18, when I had that NDE. And from there, I believed it. I could not discount it. I could not say it was a dream. I couldn't say it didn't happen. It happened. So
Yes.
I had that in my heart. It was still in my heart. So I think that helped me to learn the lessons that I had to learn as I
Yeah.
went forward.
Well, it's interesting. The last three women that I've interviewed had experience of meeting Jesus, and it's interesting that
Wow.
they bring back a specific message from him. And I've also had
Mm.
an interesting meeting with a shaman from Ecuador over the summer, who spoke and mentioned Jesus as Jesus and Michael landing in the Amazon on a mothership, and
Wow.
40
Yep.
years ago, and
Wow.
communicating some of the information, the premonitions of what would take place now. And the other people who I interviewed spoke about the similar situations when they had the near-death experience. They saw a beam of light come down from the sky to take Jesus back up to a ship.
Mm.
Maybe you could pass on.
Wow. That's amazing.
It is. It was very interesting. His eye color, his skin color. Did you have any type of message that was specifically downloaded to you or passed on?
The only message I got was for me to come back. And what he said was that you've got a lot more to do now. You've still got a lot to do. There's a lot for you to do. That was the only message, which was very confusing for me. I was
Yes,
only 18.
right.
And as I traveled, on my journey through life, learning all my lessons, going through all this stuff, every time something sort of that I would see amazing, like having my daughter and my son, I thought, well, that isn't it. There's got to be something else. There's
Right,
got to be
right,
something else,
right.
because it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. Not that that isn't big, guys, like Lee and Bill, because it is, but it had to be bigger than that. And you know what? I have spoken to people about my abuse for years. I always spoke about that. I never dismissed it. I stayed strong in the fact that, I never done anything wrong, never done anything wrong, even when I couldn't understand it. Um, so I've always tried to tell people that they're spiritual beings. First and foremost, you're a spiritual being. You're very powerful. You've got all these gifts. You can do what I'm doing. We're all capable of doing that. You've just got to go within and you've got to find it and you've got to connect to your angels and your spirit guides. So I always had that.
Yeah.
And I think that that was my calling. That's what he was talking about
Many
for
people,
this time now. Yeah.
yeah, many people are given insight into somewhat of their present, but a little bit more into the future of, as you just said, you received the message that you had something bigger to do. At what specific point in your life did you say, "Oh, I understand it now"? Was it
4 years ago. 4 years ago. Yeah.
what was the gap between? No.
Like I feel like I sort of judged it and was like, oh, this is what it is, because I have to, you know, I'm passing messages from past loved ones. I'm connecting to the spirit realms. You know, I'm seeing things and I can tell people things that nobody could ever know, you know. So I thought that slightly it could be that. Maybe that's what, you know, that definitely a part of my journey to enlighten people and help them to understand that you're not alone. There is no death. You know, your loved ones are around you. But 4 years ago, when the fake stuff happened, that's when I knew. I was like, oh my God, because I can feel it pulling me. It's pulling me. And I just want to tell the whole world, you know, wake up, come on, remove your fear, turn the telly off. You know, let's get into your spiritual side. We need to all unite. You know, we've been divided for too long because we're all one. We're all connected on, you know, consciously, and we're all one. So, and that's what I do now. I mean, I do a lot of talks. I like to do, you know, sessions and stuff like that. I do therapy, but I feel like this is my calling
Yeah.
to help people to wake up.
So much of the wake up is somewhat of a reprogramming of the subconscious mind.
Yes.
And maybe you can share a little bit about
Yeah.
some of the things you can share with others that can help a person, you know, shift.
I think for me, I feel like I've always been awake to it. I remember getting my first wage slip when I was 16 when I went to work, and the government had took money off of me. I couldn't believe that they took money off me and couldn't understand it, and was like, well, why am I giving the government money? I don't vote. I don't believe in them. They all lie. They all say they're going to do something and they don't. So why am I paying them? And you know, so it goes from there. I've had incidences with police that are corrupt. So I knew that that was corrupt. I've been through the system, social services, childcare system. So I know that's some of that. I'm not saying they're all corrupt, but the systems. And then I think you've got to come to realize that when you're listening to somebody or you're watching the news, don't believe everything that you're seeing and hearing. Use your discernment. Listen to other people. Don't just make that decision there and then because he said it and I trust him. Or she wouldn't lie. Oh, she feels really nice. She seems like a really nice person. Or he seems like a really nice person. You know, let's, like, for one instance, you know, because it's all coming out in the media, it's all hyping up again. Jimmy Savile. Have you heard about Jimmy Savile?
No, I have not. I have not.
Know the name. So Jimmy Savile was a prolific paedophile many years ago. He's passed now, and all the truth about him came out. Look it up. It's quite an interesting story. He was very friendly with the royal family, Prince Charles, the Queen, Prince Philip, Andrew. And I just think to myself, everybody loved him. Nobody would have believed that that's what he done until it come out. So this is important. Don't believe everything you're seeing. Don't believe everything you're hearing. Go to your intuition. Listen to your gut. You know, people always say, don't they? You know, I felt it in my gut. It felt right in my gut. You know, it was a gut instinct. Gut instinct. That's what you need to listen to. The other thing is not being fearful, Adam. That is so important because when you're watching what's going on in the world right now, everything that's being thrown at us is fear-based, which puts you into a fearful mindset. Yeah. And if you're in a fearful mindset, you're just bringing in all negativity and it's going to destroy you. It will destroy you. It'll bring you down. It'll make you feel bad. So remove the fear. And I always say the only thing you should fear is if you've got a lion or a tiger chasing you, then run. Do you know what I mean? Because you can see it. You can see it and it's real. Other than that, use your intuition. Meditation. Meditate. You know, call your angels in. Call your past loved ones in. Talk to them. You don't have to do it out loud. Just in your head, just talk to them. They're there. They're waiting. They're there to help everybody.
Yeah. I just lost the train of thought, but with regards to people retracing or actually questioning things external to themselves, like you just brought up, I think
I questioned everything.
It requires people to also go inward and also to challenge the system that they were brought up in order to
Absolutely.
be authentic in challenging the external world. So many times people are in a state of fear because their world is perfect on the outside, and they live on that outside world, feeding themselves with
Yeah, yeah,
materialism in order
yeah,
to cover up. And I know from my experience and hearing your experience of how you took that journey and with to question the family ancestry, the dysfunction that existed. How do you navigate through the dark night of the soul in terms of questioning or coming to that place where there's a bump in the road?
you got to do shadow work as well. You know, you're questioning the dark night of the soul. You've also got to do shadow work. You've got to recognize your inner child. You've got to heal the inner child. So if you've experienced trauma and pain and heartache within your childhood, like I did, there comes a time when you have to heal that child. Until that child's healed, you're going to be triggered with everything. Everything will trigger you. Different things will trigger you. So you go into anger, or you'll go into depression, you know. So heal the inner child first. So do some shadow work and see the real you. Okay. The dark night of the soul. I mean, I've always questioned everything from a very young age. You know, like I said to you, when I got my first job at 16, I questioned why the government, why am I giving the government? Who gives them the right to take money out of my wages? I never told them they could do that. So I questioned, and I do, and I still question everything. You have to question everything, because if you don't, you're just going to keep rolling, just going to keep rolling, you know, and it helps you to feel safe. It helps you to feel safe, and it helps you to understand things better, because you start looking at different perspectives and different things. You know, a lot of people have a different idea of the dark night of the soul. Everybody sees that again in a different perspective. You know, what is that? How do you work through that? What do you do with that? And everybody is different, I think. You know, my darkness was brought upon me.
Right.
That was brought upon me. That was, you know, that was drawn to me. So I recognize, one of the things I did recognize is I need to change my energy, because I'm meeting the wrong people. You know, I'm meeting the wrong people because I'm walking around angry. You know, I'm walking around because I didn't want to be here. You know, so I recognize that.
So many people walk around as victims in circumstances where people think that they have the right
Absolutely.
to be a victim because something was done wrong to them. But as you just mentioned, the
Yeah.
energy of that vibration, that frequency remains and attracts more of the vibration
Good.
of victimhood. Uh,
More of
so
the
how do
same.
yeah, so what are some of the techniques that you recommend people to do to increase their frequency or their vibration? Or what could they do in terms of thinking wise?
Okay, I think that, you know, you've got to recognize you've got to have positive thoughts, for one.
Right.
You know, if you get negative thoughts coming in, then there's a reason for that. So you could look at that and think, well, cool, where did that come from? Why am I thinking about that? You know, and that's what you call triggers. You know, people can be triggered with anything. You could see a billboard sign and it's triggered you for something, and your energy just changes. Everything changes, because we are all energy. You know, your energy and your vibration will be really high, or your energy will go flat and you'll be really low, or you could be in between. So I think always think about what you're thinking about, because we never think about what we're thinking about. We just have these thousands and thousands of thoughts that get pop in our head every day. So be in your awareness, be aware of your thoughts, and when you and also your emotion, and when you recognize that your energy is changing, or you're feeling a bit flat, or you don't feel good but you don't understand why, think about what you're thinking about, because it'll be the thought that's in your head that's triggering that emotion, that's maybe taking you back to an experience that you had in a past, you know, in your childhood or the recent past, or sometimes maybe in a past life, you know, because we can bring that karma into this life.
Right. Right. It's interesting.
Meditation's really good.
Yeah, I read the Akashic records and I get information through that fifth dimension, that energy that I can hear,
Mm,
I can see in terms of communication
amazing.
when I'm doing the reading. And for yourself, you do mediumship and have a sense of intuition.
Yeah.
So how do you access, or how quickly does the information come through for a person?
Adam, really quickly. So really quickly. Okay. So if they want to talk to me, they're just going to come in. It doesn't matter what. I could be sitting here just having a coffee on my day off with a friend, you know, and one of her parents will pop in. It happened to me this morning with my friend. You know, her dad that had passed just popped in and just wanted to say to her, "I'm really proud of you, well done," and mentioned something that she'd done that I didn't know. And I said, "He just wants you to know that." She said, "But Carol, you're not working." I said, "I know." I said, "Tell him that." I said, "I do tell him, and I do shut down. I do all the shutting down work. But you know what? If they want to tell you something, they're gonna get your attention. They
Yeah.
will get your attention."
I'm
So
gonna,
I'm just like, boom, and I'm in there.
it's interesting. My mother called me up last week. So she said, Adam, the lights went on in the bedroom in the other room. And I said, I had that similar specific incident happen when I
So
dreamt
is
of
that
my.
your dad? Is your dad in spirit, Adam?
No, he's not, but my father's alive, but he's not doing well. My
Right.
father.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but it's so you can carry on with that in a second. So as soon as I had a dream
I will do. Yeah.
a few years ago about my grandmother. So my
Uh,
grandmother came through in my dream, and then every light in the house went on in the middle of the night, and I got spooked because I didn't
wow.
wasn't at that place of understanding spirit and understanding that connection. So that was maybe 20 years ago. And so a couple of nights ago, the lights went on in my mother's house in the bedroom, and I said, "Ask Dad who if he dreamt, because he never
Dad.
dreams."
That's what I got.
And she said to
Yeah.
me, "He dreamt. Al, did you dream last night?" And she said, "Yes, I dreamt of my mother and that my
Oh
grandmother."
wow. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and when I said that to him, I said it's grandma, and I dreamt of her too as well the other night, and the same happens to be I'm working on a book about her and her life journey.
Oh wow. Good luck with that.
Yeah, and so what would you tell? Go ahead. What?
So I think I picked up your dad because your dad was the biggest part of this because he dreamt about your grandmother. And I think that your grandmother came in to comfort your dad and say to him, "It's okay. Your dad needs to rest." I feel your dad needs to rest. I think like he's been a hard worker all his life, really hard worker, and I think it's time for him to rest. And I think that she came in, and I want to say to him, take it as a comfort. Take it as, she's around you. She's just letting you know that we're here. Talk to us. Let us know if you want help with anything. But your dad's a really brave man. I get very brave with your dad. I don't know what he done for a living, but I feel very courageous and very brave with your dad. Okay. And I think that your grandmother was just letting him know that she's around, that she's around. She looks after you as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, I went on a journey to uncover from her family diaries that she brought from Europe after the war. I went back to Europe and went to all the places, made a documentary film about it. So it's a profound feeling for me, and I've been actually translating the diaries or working through it, and I feel the energy of
Oh,
that. So
wow.
it's a little bit
Yeah.
heavy and painful from what she wrote, but I'm doing the work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when was the first time that you remembered, like, profoundly, that, oh, I have a talent, I have a gift that I can actually see and help somebody with this?
It never really came to me like that. It wasn't like oh, wow, I
Yeah,
can do this. I just always done it. I would just always do it, no matter who I was with. Um, it would be a friend, and I would just say, "God, it feels like I feel really weird. It's like somebody else is here." And they'd go, "What do you mean, Carol? What do you mean? What do you mean?" And I'd go, "Well, there's a man here, um, and he wants to tell you this." I recognised that the biggest thing that frightened me, I think, was when I had my son, and I saw the block of flats on fire at the bottom of our road. And I phoned my husband at the time and said to him about the flats being like, I said, the flats are on fire. It's not going to come towards us, is it? Because we're near the house, blah, blah, blah. He said, Carol, they're not. He said, but they did burn down at a certain time. And another time I remember ringing him and saying to him, somebody's going to break their leg and they're going to have to come off work. So you're going to have a lot of work today. Yeah. And he phoned me and he said, one of the engineers has broke his leg and he can't come in.
wow.
So it was that sort of time that it seemed to be coming in fast and furious. And that's when I went to the church. Now, I don't know if I spoke to a vicar or a priest, because like I said, I'm not religious. I don't know. And I don't know the difference between a vicar and a priest. I have no clue even now, because religion doesn't interest me at all. Apart from bits in the Bible. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I'm not a religious person. So I don't know what it was, but he said to me, he said, it's a gift from God. It's a gift from God.
Wow.
And I felt overwhelmed, just felt overwhelmed. And it was like the first recognition that I'd got, because I had been to spiritualist churches and tried to speak with women there and men there. And I almost felt like they didn't believe me, you know, like I'd been out and found the information about them. And I've never met them before in my life, but would be going blah, 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 blah. If they didn't embrace me, I felt like I was a threat or something. So I never went back. He was the first person that gave me that. Yeah, I felt good. It felt good, you know, that recognition. And I remember I went to a mediumship night in a hall, and there was a young man on the stage doing a reading. And all I could see as I was looking at him, something falling on his foot and hurting his ankle, and he'd have to have a bandage around his ankle. So I went up to him after, and I said to him, I really thought one of them pictures were going to hit you on the foot, on your ankle. I said, because that's all I could see. And he said it happened 2 days ago. Lifted his trouser up and he had a bandage on his knee. And he came for me for a reading. He said, can I come and have a reading? And I went, oh, I said, yeah, okay then. I said, I don't really know what I'm going to do. He came round and I got his whole life story, literally just boom, boom, boom. And he had his grandmother there. So that was my first experience of a big reading,
Right.
that I'd done a big reading. And then I just carried on from there. Just sort of happened.
It's interesting. When you come into contact with certain people, I've found for myself that depending upon the openness and the vibration of another person, it's easier to read or to get information from them. In other words, information
absolutely
is passed down like a better satellite connection to see. Do you find that to be true?
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I actually see a lot of men. The last couple of years, I'd say the last 2 or 3 years, I see probably the same amount of men as I do women. Whereas years before, the majority were women.
Right.
But a lot of men are coming now, which is fantastic. Literally, I think it's amazing. And a lot of them will sit there like that and have their arms crossed. And I have to say to them, please relax. You need to uncross your arms. I said, because you're blocking me.
Yeah.
It's a block. It's like you're saying to me, I don't want you to tell me nothing. I said, so even though I have to pass these messages on to you, it doesn't feel comfortable for me because I feel like you don't want to hear it. So, yeah. And some people, I don't know really. I never struggle, Adam. I never struggle with getting messages, you know. Spirit are always coming through. They always come through. They always appear. And it's like boom, boom, boom. So I think if you've got your arms crossed, it makes me feel uncomfortable more than them, because I feel like they don't want to hear it.
Right. When you're receiving information, do you have specific guides that pass on information to you, or is it just a download of information from the person?
No, I have a spirit guide called Caleb, and he's been with me for a very long time. I see him as one of the angels that used to take me, but he's with me all the time, and he helps me. He helps me to feel relaxed. I feel like he helps them, bring them in with Archangel Gabriel. They bring them in, and he helps me to raise my energy. And then that's it. It's like it just goes. At the beginning, if there's no past loved ones that come through, and that would be probably only for the first couple of minutes while I'm talking to the person, I will pick up everything, what they're thinking, what they're feeling. Do you pick up the feelings of people as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can feel really, yeah.
What
I do get all that as well. I get that straight away.
Well, it's interesting because I think as humans, as we've been discussing, there's a percentage of displacement of projection from one's thoughts or feelings to the other person's thoughts or feelings. So sometimes you'd have to first work through that in any interaction with somebody to recognize what's mine and what's the other person's. Because you can
Yeah.
connect what's common in one person, you'll find that commonality in someone else, and then it's a projection, somewhat not
Yeah.
a projection, but you can relate or understand them better. I would think if you've
Mm.
experienced what they've gone through.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when I do my therapy sessions, I can talk about nearly everything because I've experienced nearly everything, not literally, but almost everything. So it's like, take somebody, if somebody's going through a crisis because they've been abused as a child, and they come to me for therapy, I connect straight away because I've been there. I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to be abandoned. I know what it feels like to be traumatized. I know, what it feels like to be ostracized. And I know what it feels like to be the only one. I always thought it was just me,
Yeah.
but it isn't. It's just that not many people talk about it,
Well,
you
you know
know?
what? I look at that, your not your life. I can't specifically say, but I look at the specific types of dynamics of people who are somewhat the black sheep of the family, so to speak. I think
Yeah,
I,
absolutely.
I think for myself, not to label myself or to put anyone in that category, but to understand myself, it
Mm.
teaches me to love myself, to be by myself, to accept all aspects of myself that nobody would have taught me or shown
Yeah,
me. So I think the people who
yeah.
go through these experiences like yourself are placed in a situation to truly love yourself, irregardless of the human
You have to,
experience. Would you agree?
definitely. You have to learn to love yourself. You definitely do because, and you know what, Adam, I don't know if you experience the same love, but I feel like it's so big, the love that I have for myself, that, you know, it's really hard to imagine that anybody else could give you that. I mean, when you're looking at other people around you, there were six of us. I had five brothers and sisters. And I got to an age where my daughter was young and I cut all of them off except for one brother. And he's the same as me. He connects. I don't mean with spirit, but
Yeah.
he connects with my energy. He understands me. He loves me. He gets that.
Wow.
So, one out of five,
Yeah.
and I'm definitely a black sheep. Yeah, so we do have to love ourselves. We have to. Everybody does. If you can't fall in love with yourself, how can you fall in love with somebody else?
Yeah. But in the
You
process of
have to.
but in the process of doing that, in when people are in relationships, sometimes it's difficult uh, to not to do that.
Tough.
There comes a point in time where a person has to take self inventory of themselves, and it causes a
Mm,
rift in the relationship because the person is shifting to a different level. And
absolutely.
yeah,
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 and I've been through that in relationships. And again ended up on my own in life. Because my growth has been so fast, and I want to grow. I want to learn. I want to know. I want to go up in that spaceship. I want to see where I was from. I want to connect with all them people. I want to do that stuff. I want to know. I want to understand the universe. I wanted to know all them things. I want to know, actually, I spent my younger years before I was actually doing this, wanting to understand, well, why am I seeing this? Why are they coming to me? Why me? Somebody that's so damaged, somebody that's been so traumatized. Why me? So I needed that growth, and I wanted to grow. But it's sad because when you are in a relationship and you start growing and they're still there, there's going to be a split or a separation. I mean, thank God there's a lot of people out there that have managed to stay together and grown together.
right,
But if you're not both growing together, you're gonna, and it doesn't make you better than them.
yeah,
Not at all. Not at all. It's just that your path is different. Maybe you're learning your lessons quicker
yeah,
and you're able to look at yourself. I can critique myself. If I'm wrong, I can say sorry. I can look at myself and say, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. Or, oh, wow, yeah, I did say that. I'm really sorry about that. I've always been able to do that. I can look at myself. I do look at myself, but a lot of people can't do that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
such a very important point, because so many people, uh, I guess the tactic that's used is a shaming tactic that resonates with the shame that a person feels, that stops them from growing and keeps them stuck. And so many people hook into the narcissist energy of being controlled so that they don't feel and don't
yeah,
take their power back. Uh,
yeah.
and I think,
You know, yeah, experiencing trauma, especially in childhood, who wants to go back and look at that? Nobody. Why would you? You know,
agreed.
why on earth would you want to relive all that? You know, I done it because I had my daughter, and I kept my daughter in the house, curtains shut, frightened when she was going to go to nursery into school. And you know what? I sat down one day and somebody come to me and they said, "You need to do something. You can't live like this." I was having nightmares that my dad was stealing my children and abusing them. And oh, it was horrific, really horrific. And you know what? I sat down and I went, "No, I've got to look at this. I've got to deal with this." And that's what I done. I had 5 years solid counselling because I wanted to. Don't get me wrong. I mean, my children do say to me, you know, you were very protective. And I was, and maybe I did go a little bit overboard, you know, I don't know. But my mission in life when they were growing up was to protect them. Nothing else was important to me other than them being safe. So I did look at that and I did go through that trauma again because you have to relive it. And I remembered incidences that I hadn't remembered before that was very traumatic. But you
Yeah.
know what? I went within Adam. I had a daughter and I was like, "Nah, you're not going to beat me. You're not, you know, I'm here." Do you know what I mean? I'm in my 30s. There's no way you're going to take me down now. And I done it and I got strong and I got, you know, and like I said to you, it was like pain. You can't explain the pain that you feel, the heart, it feels like it's just cracking and, you know, just breaking into pieces. But you put it all back. It all goes back. It all goes back. And you become this person that's learned so much. You learn so much about yourself and who you truly are, you know, and it's like, I know I'm a good person. I know that I love hard. I know that I would do anything for anybody. I don't lie. I can't be around people that lie because my whole childhood was a lie. So I find that very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even if I'm going to hurt you or hurt your feelings, I will tell you the truth. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and it's triggers. Again, I go back to triggers and shadow work. Everybody has to go within because we've all done things wrong. We've all hurt somebody in some way, whether it's meant or whether it isn't, you know, and you have to forgive yourself. You have to forgive yourself because if you can't forgive yourself, you can't forgive others. And if you can't forgive others, how are you supposed to walk your path? You know, your higher self. How are you supposed? You can't connect. You know, you've got to forgive. Forgiveness is huge.
Yeah. And how did you forgive? What was the steps that you took, or how would you describe that?
I think because I healed myself, I healed my inner child. That was, you know, that took quite a while, and it does because you have to look at every aspect. You have to
Yep.
get rid of the anger. You know, you have to look at everything. You know, I remember speaking to my mum, and my mum's gone home now. Bless her, she's with me every day. And I remember speaking to my mum and saying to her, "How didn't you know? How didn't you know? You know, I can't, but, you know, we all lived in the same." I'd done all that stuff, you know, because I was more angry at her than I was him, but I was projecting it onto her, which is what we do.
Yes. Yes.
Everybody
Yes.
does that. But, you know, we came to that place. So I was able to forgive myself for blaming my mum and also forgive my mum for not seeing it because she just didn't see it. She didn't see it. Who does think that your husband's abusing your child?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
don't see that. So I had to do that, and that was really big and really important for me because I love my mum. So I done that first and foremost. My father was the last person that I forgave, the very last person. And that took me a long time, a very long time. And it's only been, I would say, probably, how long? 8 years, maybe eight
Interesting.
years ago that I forgave him.
I was
Yeah.
go- I was going to say that it's interesting because I think and from my perspective, listening to you speak or listening to people who have near-death experiences, since a person knows that we go on beyond this physical body that we're in right now, and we know that it's a
Yeah,
spiritual journey, we have the capacity then to at least know that
yeah.
forgiveness is just one of the steps on the way, and despite what a person experiences physically or what they.
That's absolutely, absolutely. Forgiveness is everything. The same as gratitude.
Yeah, so
You
it's
know,
interesting.
gratitude is in the same box.
The physical body literally takes a hit and a trauma, whether it's emotional or physical, in order for it
Yeah,
to recognize that the car, like a car gets hit by another car, the shell is damaged, but if the motor is still running, it has the potential to be, just keep going. And although
absolutely.
not to negate the traumas and the deep emotions that go along with it, but from your experience, what you did was what I get out of it is you at least had the capacity to heal the past generations and then help future generations with a new reset of what your definition of what life should be like. Did that happen?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But saying that, when I look at um, my son helped me a lot through a lot of that forgiveness stuff. You know, my son is very wise. He's a very old soul, and he's connected to, you know, other races, other ETs.
I just
Okay.
got that. I got that in
Um,
my head.
right, yeah, and he knows that. It's funny because he's been getting messages and stuff. He gets messages from them, but he's very you know, we're very connected on that level. My daughter does the same as me, but she's going through her own journey. You know,
Yeah.
she's doing her own journey. But I think when you don't forgive, it causes dis-ease in your body, dis-ease, okay, which can again cause disease and sickness in you eventually if you don't get rid of it, because everything sticks to the body, the human body. The human
Yeah.
body is very, you know, we can heal ourselves. We're very powerful. We can heal ourselves, you know, but we can also make ourselves sick with the, you know, the mindset that we're in. So forgiveness has to be released. And when I forgave my dad, um, it's like I felt it go. It was like I just felt it go. No, that doesn't. And people say to me, "Oh my God, how could you forgive that after everything you done?" You know. And actually, it wasn't saying what you did was okay.
Right.
You know, it's all right. It's okay. Don't worry. I never done that. You know, because actually it wasn't all right. But I forgave him. I forgave the pain that he gave me. I forgave all them experiences, because I had to let it go. I had to let it go. And I had an experience with him only a few weeks ago when I was unwell. Remember, I had to cancel. I ended up in hospital. I was quite unwell. And I had another experience meeting Yeshua. Um, and my dad came in and protected me.
Wow.
He came in and protected me from dark shadows and stuff. But he and that felt good because like that was the first time I'd seen him. He doesn't come to me in spirit. Never ever visited me in spirit since he passed. Um, and it was the first time I saw him, and it was the first time I felt safe in his presence, even though it was spirit presence. It was the first time I felt safe,
Wow.
and that he'd
Wow.
protected me. So
That's
yeah, forgiveness is huge. Honestly,
yeah.
if you don't forgive,
People become uncomfortable because they want to continue on protecting their wounds by
yeah,
being angry. But my interpretation, like your interpretation, is to let it go, which means you no longer hold yourself
absolutely,
hostage and the other person
you have to.
hostage. Uh,
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of the subject that you mentioned with your son, which I saw him flying an alien ship and dropping you off here, uh,
Excellent.
maybe you could have you had any sightings or encounters with other beings that you want to share, or
Well, my son has. I know I do feel that I've had them encounters, but I don't remember them.
right?
I'm very into that. I love being in the garden, especially in the summer, and I will sit out there meditating. I follow Stephen Greer, and I'm on his C5 app, and I'll put the music on and the frequencies,
Right.
and I call them in. I've got my light, my torch thing, and I call them in, and I'm ready. And I've always done that. I feel a real affinity with them. I feel really close to them.
Yeah, yeah.
But my son had an experience a while ago where I think he was meditating, and everything below him just disappeared. It was like, he said, all of a sudden I was in darkness. He said, and then all of a sudden he said, I was like in this ship. He said, and I was like 1,000 miles an hour just going straight up. He said, and somebody said to me, "It's okay, Bill, you're ascending." Like,
Wow, wow,
amazing,
wow.
literally amazing. But he gets communicated. They do communicate with him. We had crop circles that appeared 30 years later. So 30 years ago on his birthday, the first set of crop circles in this area appeared in England. Okay. And then 33 years later, okay, they appeared again. But he was in the shower a couple of days before, and he told me, he said, like, there's crop circles in this area. I feel like I need to go there, something. So I said to him, oh, okay. I said, well, I'll keep an eye out. And if I hear anything, because I like watching all that stuff. I like it. And a couple of days later, I saw some guy talking about it, and I phoned him and I said, oh my God, you're right. And it was in that area. So
Wow, wow, wow.
he's very intuitive. He's very connected. I do feel like he's a warrior. He's a very gentle soul. He doesn't get angry. He avoids conflict. He's a family man now, but he's a very gentle soul. So yeah, he gets quite a lot of that, and he's been pulled out of his bed before. Lots of stuff. My son, bless his
Yeah,
heart.
I could relate to that. I had a few experiences myself recently over the last 2 years where I saw a ship come by overhead near me in the beach in front of, there was so many people, but nobody saw it except all of a sudden I looked to the right and it was in the sky, and then it hovered and then
Yeah.
took off once I looked. So it was, I felt the connection because I've always had in my mind's eye that imagery of a big-eyed, black eyes, two big black eyes in my mind's eye. So I know there's a connection. So whenever I speak to people like yourself who have a connection, I understand that you say going home, or that feeling of knowing that we're not
Ah,
specifically from here. Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
I have seen ships. I have seen ships, and especially this year. I don't know if there's been more sightings this year,
Okay.
but over where I am, I've seen ships. But it's almost like they're not making themselves clear to everybody. It's a very strange thing. It's like you'll look, and one of my friends who lives behind me, she'll ring and she'll go, "Oh my God, did you see that? Did you see that?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did." But many years ago, I would go to the bedroom window and I'd be like, come and get me. Like, come and get me and take me and let me talk to you. And my partner at the time used to pull me away and you say, don't say that. What if they do come and get you? And
Yeah,
I'd be
yeah,
like, well, excellent. I love it. I would love that. But I also recently, I'd say probably the last 3 months, um, I do see a ship in my mind's eye, and I do see myself at the window with my hand on the window, and this lady. So I don't know if it's, I can't explain it, but she's at the window and it does look like me. It could be my future self. And she's saying to me, it's going to be all right, Carol. Everything's going to be all right. And
wow.
she pops up now and again
Yeah,
in a ship.
I've had the
Yeah.
dream of with a woman coming with a ship overhead, talking, calling my name, and then taking off. So
Yeah.
it's interesting,
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah.
If if you could
Yeah.
leave the audience with like a little lasting message or something that they can take with them to go forward from today,
Yeah.
what would you say?
What I would say was try and do everything to remove your fear. Keep your thoughts positive as much as you can. And I know that in hard times, it's really difficult to do that. Don't watch the news. Don't listen to one perspective. Always listen to more. There's always 3 or 4 sides to a story. Um, definitely keep your thoughts positive. And the biggest thing to do is to know that your mindset is the most important thing. This is what controls everything that you do. It controls your behavior, your words, your actions, and your responses. Okay. So once you take control of your thoughts, then you've got it. then you've got it. But the biggest, remove fear. Meditation is really good. Having time on your own, you know, just being on your own. You have to have time out. And know, for anybody that's been through child sexual abuse and is struggling, you're not on your own. And there's millions of us out there. You know, just know that you're not on your own and that you can get through this and you can do it. You can
Yeah.
do it.
Well, you're definitely an inspiration. I mean, you're a warrior in the night sky that has gone through the dark night of the soul and has turned the darkness into light. And of course, naturally, like everyone else, you have your cyclical patterns of refacing things that we all go through.
Yeah.
But despite and in spite of that, you're a very inspirational human being. So I want to thank you
Thank
for joining me.
you.
I
You're
want to,
welcome, and thank you. It was a pleasure.
if there's
Can
a,
I just say one more thing, Adam?
of course.
Sorry. I just want to let everybody know as well that what we're going through right now isn't going to last. We're coming out the other side. We're coming into the light. We're removing the darkness, and that's what this is all about. Okay, is removing the darkness, because we went into the Great Awakening 4 years ago. Okay, we went into the Great Awakening, so every bit, you know, more people are waking up every day, and the more we connect in our higher consciousness, the quicker this is over. But if it gets worse, don't panic. It's okay, because we're coming through to the light. Everything's going to be all right. I'm so excited. I can't wait. I'm loving this period, literally, because as hard as sometimes the vibration can be, this period is awesome because we're going into the light now, and the world is going to be a better place for everybody.
Excellent information. If somebody would like to reach out to you, is there a way to reach you or to contact you?
Yeah, I can send you. My website's been having an overhaul and it hasn't finished yet, which I'm quite gutted with. But I have got an email address, and I've got a Facebook, and I've got a YouTube,
Okay.
so I can
You
I can
send me that and
send
I'll
them to
share
you
that.
today.
I'll share that in the
Yeah.
description once I
Okay.
get it. So, all right. I want to thank you so much,
Yeah.
Carol,
Okay.
for joining me.
Thank
And
you, Adam. Pleasure.
you have a great day, and we'll talk again.
You too. Yeah, most definitely. Take care. Thank you very much, Adam. Much love to you.